October 6th. Welcome to the Kahnawà COVID-19 Task Force Update. It is our 138th. On this day in Quebec, the numbers continue to rise. Talking about that will be Lloyd Phillips, the Commissioner of Public Safety. He'll be followed by Lisa Westaway, who will talk more about the impacts directly involved with our community. So we'll start off with Lloyd Phillips.
Once again, thank you very much, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us once again. We'll be fairly brief this afternoon, but what message I wanted to convey today to the community is that basically the situation, in Quebec, in the Greater Montreal area, it certainly is not stabilizing. As a matter of fact, things are going in the wrong direction over the past few days. And maybe just to go over a couple of numbers that we've been talking about in the past, just to recap and maybe give you a little more information. We talked about the R factor in the past, on what that means is basically the amount of people who get the virus and then how many people they could potentially infect after they contract the virus. And prior to the first wave, it was below 1. It was like at 0.7. So it means like the chances of somebody spreading the virus to somebody else was actually below 1. So the ratio was very good. But now we are at a 1.37, which means a person who's infected, could transmit the virus obviously more than one person. So those numbers are going in a direction that we certainly don't want to see. As well as the numbers, cases number of cases per 100,000 people. This in October 1st, it was 8.8, and as we speak today, just a few days later, is at 13.9. So again, those numbers are certainly not what we want to see going once again in the wrong direction. And also the percentage of positive per cases that are tested is now at 6.4%. So 6.4% of all tests that are done are coming back positive. And prior, and when we felt it was stable, and we're looking at a percentage of 2%. So that number has basically almost tripled in the past several weeks. Today, Quebec had set a new record at 1,364 new positive cases. And that's the 5th straight day of over 1,000 cases in the province of Quebec. There was some 17 deaths today, and as well as hospitalization rate has been gradually increasing in the past week. So I know some of this information seems grim. It certainly doesn't. It's not positive news, and things are not going in the right direction. As I mentioned prior, hopefully with the measures that have been taken in Kahnawà and as well as in the Greater Montreal area, that we'll start seeing a stabilization of these numbers in the coming weeks. It's also important to note, doing some of the contact tracing in the community, but more so outside at this point, and looking at where the source of infections occur. And again, a lot of the source of those infections are happening around gatherings. So this information is something obviously that we have now, and at a task force meeting tomorrow, this is some of the information that we share, and we weigh this against what's happening in the community, and also helps guide our decisions moving forward. So here to speak more directly on how some of this information, as well as some additional information, how that impacts directly on our community. Lisa's here to explain a little further. Goa, see you tomorrow.
Good afternoon. So we just want to talk a little bit about the testing site, just to give you an update. We are still at 5 cases in Kahnawà. However, we continue to test at the testing site, and there continues to be a backlog of obtaining results. So we presently have approximately 130 people who have been tested who are awaiting results. As we mentioned yesterday, it's paramount that you stay in isolation until you receive your results, even though it's long. We know that, but you can transmit the virus if you are positive, and therefore, even if your symptoms have resolved, we ask that you stay in isolation. What I wanted to speak more about today, though, is the impact of this delay in obtaining results. So not only is there an impact on the person who was tested, but there's an impact on possible contacts of that person. So anybody, while we're awaiting a positive result, contacts can freely move around the community and therefore are not necessarily identified as contacts as quickly as we would like them to be. So once we get a result, that's when we do contact tracing, once we get a positive COVID-19 result. However, if we're waiting 3, 4, 5, or 6 days for a positive result, then there is potentially somebody with symptoms, a contact who has developed symptoms or is in the pre-symptomatic phase, who is walking around and possibly infecting other people. So you can see how the transmission rate can drastically increase due to delays in obtaining results. It's for this reason that we have a very unclear picture right now about really what's happening in the community. We can't really say with any certainty how many cases we have or the rate of transmission, whether we have community transmission. It's very, very difficult to say that right now. And for that reason, a main topic of conversation and discussion at tomorrow's task force meeting will be around gatherings. So if we look back on the first wave and on the second wave, many of our cases and transmission have occurred because of gatherings, not because of our business openings and not even because of our schools at the present time, although we are limiting the possibility of transmission in that sense. However, it really always stems back to gatherings, and therefore this is the area that we have to be most cautious in, because when we are in our own homes with our loved ones, we tend to gradually drift closer together, or not necessarily implement the measures of distancing or hygiene and masks. And so this will be the topic of much discussion. As you know, in Kahnawà, we still allow 6 people gatherings in your home. And this is very different from what we had promoted in our red zone, our red phase. And as we had said, we would progressively move through that red phase. And so we're going to be looking tomorrow at the possibility of moving that into a more restrictive phase, and we'll give you more information about that tomorrow. So we just wanted to give a little bit of an update. Again, we're at 5 cases, but that is that information is to the best of our knowledge, and therefore we really urge you to ensure to distance at all times, hygiene and masks when you can't be further than 2 meters apart. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you, Lloyd, and thank you, folks, for watching today. As they said, it wasn't a lengthy report today, but there is lots of news, and tomorrow there will be a task force meeting. And yes, there will be some news on Halloween, because that is the number one question these days. And I guess we have to understand that, because at a time like this, we need all those little happy things that we just need to get through something so difficult. So there will be work done to see if it can be done and how it can be done in the safest way possible. So with that, again, the number is extremely high. Stay in town if you can. Wash your hands and all the distancing, all the usual stuff. And remember, anybody can get this. Let's not be pointing fingers. if you look around and you watch the news, you see that the National Hockey League's best player, Connor McDavid, just tested positive. So happens everywhere. Just be as careful as you can, and we shall be back tomorrow with another COVID-19 task force update. So on behalf of all of us here, Nyao Koa Dano, Onigiwahi.